Okay, so have you ever like really thought about it? It's like our society is kind of obsessed with staying young, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
Like aging is some big thing to be scared of. But what if we like flip the script? What if getting older was actually an opportunity instead of something we got to avoid?
I like that.
So that's what this deep dive is all about today. We're checking out this podcast episode. It's called Embracing Aging, the journey of growing older with grace. But we're not just looking for, good vibes. We're digging into the practical stuff.
Right, because there are practical things you can do.
Exactly. Especially if you're thinking about the future, which, let's be real, we all are.
Absolutely. And there's so much to consider, both the good and, the not so good when it comes to getting older.
For sure. And this podcast, it just dives right in. Like, they talk about how we're surrounded by anti-aging products, procedures, all that.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like we're, programmed to be scared of wrinkles or something.
Yeah, it's true. And that fear, it comes from some pretty deep-seated beliefs in our society. When we're constantly told that being young is the best, the most important thing,
Right.
we accidentally start thinking that experience, all the stuff you learn as you age, isn't as valuable.
Wow. Yeah.
And that plays out in all these ways, from how people treat you to what jobs you can get when you're older.
It's weird because the podcast mentioned that a lot of cultures, they have so much respect for their elders. They see them as wise and full of guidance.
That's a good point.
It makes you think, what if we were more like that? What if our society embraced that whole viewpoint?
That is a big question. But think about it. The places where elders are respected, families are often closer, there's less crime, even the economy can be stronger.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
There's this huge well of knowledge and experience that we're kind of ignoring if we don't listen to older generations.
It's like we're missing out on a whole library of wisdom or something. Okay, but the podcast, they don't just talk about the mental stuff. They get into the physical realities of getting older too. And they're big on being proactive, especially with exercise.
Oh, for sure.
They're saying it's important for your heart, your muscles, and even your brain, which, let's face it,
We could all use a little help with that.
Exactly.
And what's interesting is that while exercise is good for you at any age, the type you do really matters more as you get older. Like strength training.
Yeah.
Super important because you naturally start to lose muscle as you age. Helps you stay mobile and independent.
So it's not just about looking good. It's about being able to live your life.
Exactly.
The podcast also talks about food. Eat your fruits and veggies. But they go beyond that.
Yeah, they do.
They're talking about how the stuff we eat directly affects things like inflammation and, cognitive decline as we get older.
It's true. What you eat can really change how your brain works as you age. And this whole inflammation thing, that's a big one. Eating a lot of processed foods and sugar.
Yeah.
It can actually cause inflammation all over your body, including your brain.
So it's like wrinkles on the inside. That's kind of scary.
It's a good way to put it. And that inflammation, it's been linked to problems like, memory loss and even Alzheimer's.
Okay, so we're not just talking about fitting into our old genes anymore.
Yeah.
It's about our brains working, right?
Exactly. But the good news is eating lots of antioxidants, the stuff in fruits and vegetables,
Yeah.
it can actually protect your brain cells, like you're building a shield around them or something.
Those blueberries really are brain food.
They are.
Okay, but the podcast doesn't just stop at the physical stuff. They get into how aging affects us mentally and emotionally too, and they say it can be a wild ride.
Oh, yeah, because you go through all these new experiences, challenges, like you deal with loss in different ways, people pass away, jobs change, sometimes you got to get used to new routines or even just limits on what your body can do. It's tough, but it's also a chance to learn and grow.
I guess it's like those tough times force you to find a strength you didn't know you had.
Exactly. These changes in your life, they make you really think about what's important, and you learn how strong you are, and you figure out who you really are. It's like this huge opportunity for, personal development.
I like that. The podcast also talked about staying sharp mentally, keeping your brain active. They mentioned stuff like reading, doing puzzles, learning new things.
All great for you.
Right.
But there's this one thing that really stands out when it comes to your brain and just feeling good overall. Social connection. But I'm not talking about just scrolling online.
So what kind of social connection are we talking about, and why is it so important when we're older?
It's about doing stuff with other people where you have a shared goal.
Mm-hmm.
Volunteering, clubs, taking classes together, stuff like that. Those things give you a feeling of belonging, like you're part of something. And that's really important when you're dealing with loneliness, which a lot of people face as they age.
It's like finding your people, but maybe a little later in life.
That's it. And the best part is, it's never too late.
I love that. Now, the podcast also spent some time on the whole gratitude thing. They seem to think it can really change your life.
It's not just about feeling good. Being grateful actually affects your brain. There are studies that show it increases dopamine and serotonin, and those are chemicals in your brain that make you feel happier.
Oh, wow. So it's like a happiness boost just from thinking about what you're grateful for.
Exactly. And you know what makes gratitude even more powerful as you get older?
What's that?
It helps you shift your focus. Instead of thinking about what you might be losing as you age, you start appreciating what you still have.
Oh, that's interesting.
And all the new things each stage of life brings, you know? It's a way to find happiness and meaning even when things are changing.
It's like you're changing your story. Instead of dwelling on what you can't do anymore, you're embracing what you can do. Maybe even finding new passions along the way.
Exactly. And the podcast, it ends on such a high note with this idea that you should never stop being curious, always trying new things, going after what makes you happy, no matter how old you are.
Right. They were all about that.
Yeah.
Travel, hobbies, volunteering, mentoring, like so many possibilities.
It's like this whole new chapter opens up. It reminds us that aging doesn't always mean slowing down, you know?
Yeah,
It can be about finding new things you love and seeing the world in a different way.
that's awesome. It's really empowering.
It is. So that kind of makes me think, what's one tiny thing you could do today, no matter how young or old you are, to start embracing the good parts of aging? Maybe try something new, or reach out to someone you admire, or just take a minute to think about all the things you've learned in life.
I love that. It's like a little challenge for everyone listening. And hey, if you're interested in learning more about this whole aging thing, I definitely recommend giving that Embracing Aging podcast episode a listen. It's a good reminder that age is really just a number, and getting older, it's full of chances to grow, find joy, and keep discovering new things. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and embrace the adventure of aging.